Hello, welcome to Religion for Tuesday. Today I'm going to talk about a parable from the Bible. And parables were short stories that Jesus used to try and explain a message to his followers. Just a story that they would understand um, to help them understand a message. So this parable, um, it's of the Pharisee and the tax collector. And the Pharisee back in those times was considered sort of someone from the right culture or the right religion, um, and they were quite popular. Whereas a tax collector were the people that had to go around collect everyone's taxes, and it was widely accepted that a tax collector would kind of keep some of the money for himself that he shouldn't, so he could kind of rig the system a bit. And so tax collectors were usually quite wealthy, but nobody liked them because they cheated. So this is from the Bible, from Luke 18, 9 to 14. And I'll read this out for you. You can read along with me. So Jesus spoke to some people who prided themselves on being upright and despised everyone else. And the Pharisee says, oh no, this is Jesus telling a story, sorry. So this is Jesus. Two men went up to the temple to pray. And the temple in those days was the church. One was a Pharisee, the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood there and said this prayer to himself: I thank you, God, that I am not grasping, unjust, adulterous like everyone else, and particularly that I am not like this tax collector here. I fast twice a week, I pay tithes on all I get. The tax collector stood some distance away, not even daring to raise his eyes to heaven. He beat his breast and said, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Jesus finishes the parable by saying, This man, I tell you, went home again justified. The other did not. Oh, okay. For everyone who raises himself up will be humbled, but anyone who humbled himself will be raised up. So parables, like I said, were not necessarily a true story, but there was a parallel message in there. So why was Jesus telling this story? Why was he telling this parable about the Pharisee and the tax collector? Well, he's presented two people. One person, the Pharisee, who did all the right things, followed all the rules, but he made himself righteous and he judged others badly. Whereas the other person had maybe done some dodgy things, but he was regretful and remorseful and was asking for forgiveness. God, be merciful to me. I'm a sinner. He recognised he was not perfect. He'd done some wrong things. And who did Jesus favour? The righteous person or the humble person? Well, he says, everyone who raises themselves up, they will be humbled. But for anyone who humbles themselves, will be raised up. So basically, he favours the tax collector, which was a bit of a shock to people in the time, and that's why Jesus chose these sorts of stories, because he wanted people to remember them. He wanted to remember the message. So, if Jesus were around today, what would his parable look like? Who would he be putting in these cartoons? Who would he be putting in his stories to try and get the same message across to us? Who can you think of a righteous sort of character and a humble character, and maybe draw us a cartoon, not a whole full cartoon, just a couple of pictures, and describe each one. Who was the righteous person and who was the humble person. An example you could use, or be something like this, could be, say there's two students in a year 5-6 class, and one of them never cheats, never does anything wrong, always does all their work. But they look, and then there's another student, and sometimes they cheat, or they try not to do their work, but they're humble and thoughtful about it, and think, oh, I should try better. Whereas the person who always does the right thing is like, at least I'm not like them. Like thinks really high about themselves and puts themselves up higher than everyone else. So that'd be a similar situation where the Pharisee would be that student that's sort of doing everything right, but then looking down at the people who aren't doing the right thing and judging them. And then the tax collector would be the student that, maybe they cheated on a couple of things, but they know they did the wrong thing and they're sorry about it, and they don't judge other people. Now, so have a go. Think of something. You can use that example if you can't think of anything else, but just draw a little sketch and say label who would be the Pharisee and who would be the tax collector in your scenario. Now this raises some questions like, for me, it's like, does Jesus want us to do bad things as long as we're sorry about it afterwards or something? I think the answer is no. I think he wants us to be like the Pharisee. He wants us to do the right things. But the one thing the Pharisee does wrong is judge other people. And so you can undo all your good work by putting yourself up higher than someone else and looking down at them and judging them. So basically that's what it's saying. It's like, Jesus wants us to do the right thing, but doesn't want us to judge other people. Just worry about yourself and your relationship with God. Have a bit of fun. Draw us a little picture, and just want you to label who your Pharisee is and who your tax collector is, just to show that you understand this message.